Thank you very much, Madam Clerk and Deputy Clerk. Welcome members of council, members of our staff, and members from the public that are here tonight in our council chambers. It is Monday, March the 9th, 2026. Council is in a regular council meeting. We did meet earlier tonight at 3 o'clock for an in-camera session, and then we've now returned to our regular session. But at this time, I'd like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. We acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Teotihuacan, the Wendat, and is the home to many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people as part of an intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. At this time of truth and reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask the Creator for guidance in all that we do. And I'm always pleased to be able to say the land acknowledgement here on behalf of the Township of Clearview. Let's see, our council agenda, item number 2 is approval of the agenda. This is the 5:30 agenda. So I'll read that. Recommendation be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated March the 9th, 2026 as presented. That will be Mr. MacArthur and the Deputy Mayor. Thank you very much. Are there any amendments or changes to the agenda from our members of council? All right, seeing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor? All right, that carries. Just as a brief announcement at this point then, I'll announce too that Councillor Deneen is away tonight. She was in a location where she's not able to join us by Zoom, but she is certainly welcome to have a vacation like anyone. So we're happy that she is away relaxing. At this point, I'll ask for declarations of pecuniary interest, if there are any declarations from members of council. Yes, Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a conflict with item 10.1.1.
1.1.
10.1.1.
Gotcha. 10.1.1. Okay. And we will mark that. All right, thank you. And I'm sure you filled out the correct forms for the clerk. Excellent, thank you very much. Are there other members of council? No, nothing further? Okay, if anything else comes up during the meeting, please let us know and we'll deal with it right away. All right, council, we're going to move to item number 4, which is our public participation period. And as we have many members here in the audience here tonight, I'll read the full script. Please be advised that comments and views expressed under a public participation period are not the views of the Township of Clearview, Council, or the administration. Public participation is limited to 15 minutes and each person is limited to 5 minutes. Questions or comments are to be directed to the mayor, and questions shall not refer to personnel matters, litigation, or potential litigation, or planning matters that have already had a public meeting or any item considered confidential. For those members of the public not able to attend in person, written public participation can be provided through the Township's portal, and written comments shall be received prior to noon on Friday before the regular scheduled council meeting. And as always, please remember to share the time with your fellow citizens. I will ask the Deputy Clerk, hello, have we got any public participation periods electronically?
Thank you, Your Worship. We did not receive any electronic public participation questions.
All right, thank you very much for that. So then I'll open up the floor. Are there any members of the public who would like to come forward and ask a question? Yes, please come right up to the mic. I think you have to press that microphone to turn it green.
Okay.
And state your name and what's your
Robert Thomas.
Hi, Robert.
I have a question about the draft bylaw, in particular, the comment period that ended November 5th. There's currently 71 out of 159 comments that were made that aren't or haven't been publicly put out there.
Yes.
I'm wondering when they'll be online for review as council directed at your February 9th council meeting.
That's an excellent question. Perhaps I can ask the director from that department, Derek Abbott. Derek, can you please help us out in understanding the well, first of all, an answer to the question and how those comments are being handled in the public eye.
Sure, thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the resident. So we've been made aware that some of our comments have not been released publicly, and to you members of council, we're aware of that. We do have an item later on in this agenda that speaks about the draft comprehensive zoning bylaw. It is our intention to include those comments at a future report to committee of the whole, or sorry, to council, and they will be made available. It was a bit of a timing error where we had a closing date for public comments. And then when we sent them off to our consultant, some of the comments did come in after that comment period, which is fine. We're still going to include those. And our consultant has been made aware that not all of the comments have been addressed and posted on our website, but those will be coming.
If I can add too, Derek, I know that you have to work with the clerk's department about publishing agendas. And so sometimes the timing doesn't always reach the completion for that at the time when it gets published on the website. So I know you and other senior managers often deal with that when it comes to comments or anything additional to the agenda. So I just want to acknowledge that that is part of the process of making sure that we get our information into the clerk's department on time. So I think the answer is yes, they will be published, and yes, they will become part of the public record as they are right now. They actually are part of the public record. They're just not in a form that can be displayed in a public forum. One of the cautions I always think about when it comes to comments from the public too, when you submit them, you have to be careful about the use of your email and your personal telephone numbers and these type of things when you submit it. So we often have questions and conversations around here about, do we redact that personal information so that it's not published and then gathered by some bot to be used in other ways, right? So we just want to let you know that we have to do all that work too ahead of time. Thanks for your communications earlier on this too, Robert. I'm glad you emailed us. Thank you. All right, well done. Is there anybody else from the members of the public who would like to come forward and ask a question at this time for public participation period? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on. Thank you very much. Let's see, delegations and presentations. We do have a delegation tonight. And I'd like to invite Monica Brannigan up to the microphone and just acknowledge that, Monica could always participate in public participation. But what Ms. Brannigan has done was reached out to the clerk's department to make sure that she could be on the agenda with a full presentation. So this is exactly how the procedure is supposed to work, and I want to thank you and acknowledge you for making that effort to reach out to the clerk and get yourself a spot on our agenda. So welcome.
Thank you.
That's okay.
And thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Perot, and Mr. Abbots for this opportunity to share my experience with risk at Clearview Township. Next slide, please. So my intention is really to focus on the system, and I'm not in any way trying to blame individuals, and I'm trying to be helpful here. Next slide, please. And what I mean by the risk focus, I think, is best encapsulated by a meeting I was at with the development team. And I was told, we don't like Morrison's, the pumpkin farm. And it was then explained to me that Morrison's generated traffic. And I think this beautifully illustrates that if you're only looking for risk, you're only going to see risk. Next slide, please. And so I believe there are at least 5 unintended negative consequences of this risk focus that I experienced. Next slide, please. The first one is the reliance on consultants. Every single piece of information I submitted had to be signed off by another professional. And then it needed to go to Burnside for peer review without all the important information. So I found myself in my parking area with members of the development team, and I had a plan in place to describe the parking area and the parking spots, and my trusty measuring tape. And they said, it looks great, I'm sure it's fine, you just need to get it signed off by an engineer. Next slide, please. And I don't believe that this system is actually benefiting your staff, because you've got very experienced, well-trained staff, and they are constrained from using their professional judgment and the full scope of their practice with this over-reliance on consultants. As an example, I experienced an issue with a lighting plan, which, as you may know, is trying to make sure that a business has adequate light at night for the outside areas and the parking areas. Well, I've already agreed that I'm not teaching at night, and I don't have any lights apart from one over the door. Yet I had to ask an engineer to say I did not need a lighting plan. Next slide, please. And so when you look at this, there's a big cost involved in this. The first time I received feedback from my project, I was told I needed to submit studies that would have cost more than $150,000 for 24 people a week. I had to hire a lawyer to be allowed to use a simpler minor variance process. To date, for the permitting alone, I've paid over $50,000. I learned I need to widen part of my driveway. I hope I've reduced your litigation risk, although I don't understand why my business is risky. The only winner here is the consulting industry. Next slide, please. Because Clearview Township is certainly not winning. Core business is agriculture. 32% of farms are 69 acres or less. They need this opportunity to make additional money. And right now, the process makes it prohibitive. Next slide, please. The other thing that I think has happened with this focus on litigation is bylaw development that happened in late 2024. So although the province of Ontario does not mandate site plan for all on-farm diversified uses, Clearview Township chose to make it mandatory. And although the guidelines for permitted uses in prime agricultural areas in Ontario recommends that if there is site plan, there be an expedited process, Clearview chose to not have an expedited process and have the minimum requirements for site plan exactly the same as a draft plan for a subdivision. So how could we shift from focus on risk to focus on permissions? Next slide, please. The first thing is we need good information. So how much does it cost? How many studies are there? So when a farmer comes to you, you can honestly say whether they can afford it or not, and how many people abandon their projects, and how many people make it through, and why isn't it on the strategic dashboard? And let's celebrate that. Next slide, please. And we need to find a way of including benefit in the decision-making, not just benefit to agriculture and the farmer, but benefit to the township. So can we support projects that are aligned with your strategic plan or that help your tourism plan? Would the Community Economic Development Officer be such a person to be able to articulate the benefit and the business case to really articulate what the benefit is? Next slide, please. And this whole question of how can we reduce the reliance on consultants, I think it's really doable. An early site visit makes many things self-evident. They could see that I had 15 acres of white spruce. I did not need a tree inventory. There are alternative forms of information. I did not need a hydrogeologic study at over $9,000 plus the peer review when I had good well records. And not every on-farm diversified use needs a traffic brief. 8 people 3 times a week on fairgrounds represents less than 0.1% increase in traffic. So let's have thresholds that are reasonable. Next slide, please. And how do we wrap our heads around risk? Obviously, size has an impact. The bigger you are, the more people, the more chance of having risk. But when we're talking about on-farm diversified uses, really we're interested in the impact on agriculture. Yet my experience was there's a huge focus on the risk of complaints, and I don't know how important that is. At one point in my process, I was asked to sign something to say that if when I'm walking with 8 people on my property, there are any privacy concerns or nuisances, I have to reduce the number of people on my property or not use certain areas to walk. My whole property has great windbreaks. Next slide, please. I actually believe bylaw amendment is critical and doable, and you can have a separate stream, and that might help people think differently about an on-farm diversified use and separate it from a subdivision development. So I think this is key. Next slide, please. However, the biggest change, the hardest thing to do, is going to be a mindset change. I would describe the mindset I encountered as, you just need an engineer. The mindset I would have loved to encounter was, tell me about your project. Let's see how we can work on this together. Next slide, please. So I know I can't make anybody, even my daughter here, do what I want them to unless they want to. And I hope you really want to make it better for on-farm diversified uses. And you might begin in a very simple way. Council, do you have enough information to know how are you actually doing in supporting on-farm diversified uses? Are you interested in pursuing bylaw amendment? And Mr. Ferguson, how do you support staff to balance those difficult things like risk, benefit, cost, and time? And what are the negative consequences of this risk aversion on other areas, like the bleachers, for example? And my colleagues on the development team who've worked very hard with me over the past 2 years, what would it be like to ask, is there a more cost-effective way of obtaining this information? And what is the actual risk benefit here? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You've brought up a few items here that I wrote down that I was interested in. And before we go on, I'd like you to clarify for me and for anyone, what did you mean by Morrison Pumpkin Farm comment? What was that?
So I was a little bit flabbergasted about all the money I was expected to pay. And the development team was trying to tell me about all of the risks that they needed to abate. And so they were giving the example of Morrison Pumpkin Farm as something that was a problem because it was generating traffic. And it wasn't clear to me that they could see the benefits. I think it's a jewel in the crown of Clearview Township. But this inability to see benefit, I think, is exactly what's happening and what I experienced. It's just, what's the risk? And I was told on many of occasions, flat out, you need this study to reduce the liability risk of the township, period. And I think you have to be reasonable. How do you counter that? I'm not saying being aware of the risk to the township isn't important. It's incredibly important. And it needs to be balanced with what's the benefit to the township and what's the cost and what's the time. And is our focus on reducing risk, meaning that on-farm diversified uses won't happen? I'm in conversation with one farmer now who was told the money that he would need to spend to even begin to discuss this, he can't afford it. I know 3 other farms who are operating on-farm diversified uses without any involvement of the township. So, right now it's prohibitively expensive, so I don't believe it's happening.
I don't quite understand your comment about my question about the Morrison Pumpkin Patch, because I can assure you, as an economic driver to tourism in our community, it's a success story.
I totally agree with you.
And I think that if anybody is putting any question marks about how busy they are, I would suggest to you that the County of Simcoe traffic study recently showed that it's a success. It's been handled very well, considering that that particular road does have some paved shoulders. So it's a wide county road. It's not a municipal road. It's a wider roadway. So it does, and it also has some wide open view lines from the exit of the driveway. The other aspect about Morrison's Pumpkin Patch or Pumpkin Farm is that the activity of the public entering onto the agricultural lands is confined to a very small space. They do not go and explore the entire property. They're not walking all over, they're staying in a very confined space. And so that addresses one of the points you said later on in your comments about the privacy issues of farms, and also the bio security of the farm is also kept, is maintained by not allowing members of the public to go all over. So first of all, whoever's saying anything negative about the Morrison Farm, saying it's a problem, it's not a problem. So I just want, I know
agree
if
with
you
you.
didn't say it, if somebody said it from our staff, I don't mind saying it as the mayor, it's not a problem.
Okay.
So this, I just want to leave it at that.
I gave it as an example about what happens when we only look through the risk of lens and, the lens of risk.
Right.
And we're not looking for benefit. I don't agree with the comment.
All right, thank you. There are other things that you said, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to defer to my counsel. If anybody has any questions or comments they'd like to bring forward or any asks. Paul, yes, please go right ahead, our deputy mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Mr. Brannigan, I really appreciated what you presented there because this weekend when I was preparing for this meeting, it gave me a chance to dig into a few things. I farm, and we're not small farmers, and I really appreciate what the planning staff has done in regards to the definition of on-farm diversified use. And when I first heard you started talking in your presentation, I want confirmation, you dealt with this application, your application as a minor variance, not as an on-farm diversified use, am I correct?
Well, it was a minor variance because,
Okay.
just a minute, for a home industry that is considered an on-farm diversified use.
So what is your business then?
I'm wanting to offer workshops on land stewardship, climate change, and nature connection in part of my barn and with escorted tours of 8 people at a time on mostly through the forest that we have, the acreage, and sometimes to the periphery of the property to show them some interesting ways that we manage slash.
So is any part of your farm farmed right now?
I have a farm business registration number. We practice agroforestry, and this spring we will be leasing our land for rotational grazing.
Okay, so I'm going to read a couple of things that I want the public to be aware of, okay? And this is what you just clarified for me, but it falls under your jurisdiction. For farm status in Ontario, MPAC must assess your property as farmland. Your property is used for a farm business, which you clarified as forestry. The farm business on your property must have a farm business registration number, and the property is owned by the Canadian citizen or permanent resident. That's from the province as far as a farm is concerned. The CRA, you must generate $7,000 in gross income and belong to one of 3 organizations, OFA, NFU, and CFFO. And for clarification, that's the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, the National Farmers Union, or the Christian Federation of Farmers. You have your pick where to go, and they are all agricultural, on all agricultural focus. OFA, I went to their website. To qualify for on-farm diversified use, which is similar to what we're doing here within Clearview, must be located on a farm, must be secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property, is limited in area to 2% or 1 hectare, and includes home operation, home industries, agritourism, and value-added use, and is compatible and does not hinder surrounding agricultural operations, and it's for farm economic viability and succession planning. So the questions I asked you about seem to conform to that, but it would appear, and this is what I wanted very clear about, with our new OP, our staff has gone way out to get us the zoning for the definition of on-farm diversified use. And when we had our public meeting here, it was great to see people come and question. The mayor and I have had actually some discussions recently with some Mennonites up around Maple Valley who want to come to our community. And they've looked at the bylaw, and they're happy because now they can come forward and put a presentation together, and it's going to get exactly what you asked for. It's going to get rid of a lot of consultation. Why? Because the rules are in place.
I see it differently, unfortunately. So your official plan uses the language of site plan approval may be required.
Can we ask, just before, I'd like to bring Derek into this conversation because he's would be my go-to person on this, Your Worship. if
Sure,
that's okay.
Derek, if you're comfortable to answer some questions of the deputy mayor.
So Derek, can you pitch in with this and so you can respond to that so I don't step in the wrong pail?
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, can you just clarify what your
So
question is?
Ms. Brannigan is starting to give us the definition or what your interpretation of the zoning.
What I'm saying is the current official plan uses the language of may be required when talking about on-farm diversified uses, and yet the site control requirements bylaw requires, it's mandatory, it's shall have site plan approval. And the site plan approval, there's nothing to say, oh, well, we can have an expedited process or we can have a minor site plan approval. So although the requirement for a zoning bylaw amendment has been dropped, which is tremendous, it's kind of give something and take it away. There's nothing enshrined to say that you don't require $150,000 worth of studies.
When I built my building years ago, I put it all under site plan agreement and defined where the buildings are, storm management and stuff like that. And it was put to me right at the outlay. And so I was good with it because it gave me strength in the future of what I could do with my property. Derek, can you just comment to what Mrs. Brannigan said about the shall or will do a site plan?
Sure. Through your worship to the deputy mayor, to the resident. So the official plan is generally overarching policies, and yes, that does use words like may. It's typically not shall because they're meant to be interpretive policies that oversee for a municipality. But I will note that yes, our site plan control areas bylaw does indicate that an on-farm diversified use is subject to site plan control.
So you used the word subject to, so is that may
It's
or
a shall.
must?
Yes, it's a bylaw passed by council, and on-farm diversified uses would have to go through a site plan control process. The official plan would lay out the policies and criteria that would need to be met in accordance with any sort of site plan application. Those are what we would refer to when we're reviewing an on-farm diversified use, and that's essentially what an official plan is. It's a set of policies that allow us these tools to use site plan control if we want to, or how we can control.
And they still have the option before we go down this road, because I recognize what Ms. Brannigan was saying about the cost. There is a pre-consultation process that we're really encouraging nowadays with the new OP, so people know before they spend a lot of money what they'll be required of them. Am I correct?
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, yes, you're correct, and I believe Ms. Brannigan did go through the township's pre-consultation process, and all of those required plans and studies would have been identified to her at that time.
Okay, now, do those with them, and one of the things that always get me concerned, if we do a pre-consultation and we say you need this, this, and this, can other things be added, like highway traffic study or a D4 study? Can that be added after they've gone through a site consultation?
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, it's possible that it can. Typically, the reason why we do pre-consultation is to gather more information about what the project is and what the application is, to try and discern what information is required to fulfill a complete application for submission.
Okay, so going back to her original comment about the concerns, or one of her comments about using consultants, like I have to agree with her when it comes to the water hydrology report. She's got a good well record on the property. I think we've talked about that already, that she'll be allowed to use that for her a new applicant would be allowed to use that for a hydro-G, acceptable for it to prove she has enough water?
Through your worship to the deputy mayor, I'll defer to my counterpart because a lot of those studies are engineering studies or engineering required studies. So I wouldn't comment on whether or not that's an acceptable document. I usually lean on my engineering department to assist with that.
Okay. So I'm thinking, like I'm hearing her comments about how do we make it simpler. I thought and I would hope the on-farm diversified use would, get us, I won't say all the way there, but most of the way there. So I'll leave my comments with that, and thank you. It's nice to hear that. Your worship, back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Paul. Obviously, you thought all about this a lot. I appreciate that. Are there other members of council that have any questions or comments for the deputation and or the staff? I'll just wrap up by asking if the CAO would like to add anything that you'd like to add to this.
Thank you, Worship. We'll certainly take what has been said under the presentation, under advisement. We'll talk about these things. A lot of the stuff, these are standard practices for other municipalities, and so we try to exercise the best practices. But we'll certainly take a look at it and see if there is some room for change. But ultimately, there's other things that trigger our responsibility, and often they're statutory. So we'll take a look at the whole picture.
All right. And for Derek, you had something? Thank you, Derek.
Through the worship, I just want to add to Ms. Brannigan. I know it's not going to be too helpful for her case, but as a result of this, and the deputy mayor did mention, our new comprehensive zoning bylaw will include on-farm diversified uses as an as-of-right permissions in our new zoning bylaw. Currently, our current zoning bylaw does not have any language to speak to on-farm diversified uses, just given the age. But notwithstanding that, planning staff are actually, just as a result of this, and when the new zoning bylaw comes in, we're looking at developing an in-house guide or a guide for on-farm diversified uses, recognizing that this can be a challenging situation, and not every on-farm diversified use is the same. Like, for instance, Mrs. Brannigan's, as she's indicated, is maybe on the relatively smaller side, so that's where we're going to attempt to develop some sort of a guide that we can present to council and the public as kind of a tool or a document we'd use, no different than engineering standards or planning standards. It would be a guide to help us through on-farm diversified uses and to assist future applicants.
All right, I appreciate that. I believe that back to the comment about the whole site plan control, underneath the current bylaw, the site plan control, of course, is there to encourage the compliance with the on-farm diversified use objectives. So as the deputy mayor shared, it's one of the points that was brought up at the council meeting a couple of years ago, that we need to give opportunity for the agricultural community to have the opportunity to diversify their economic inputs that they bring into their farm operations. So that objective is what we started with, and we've been working with some of the provincial policies as well as working at how we can make it work for us. And so when we get to the point of passing our new official plan with all this included in it, I look forward to having a really good understanding about how the current site plan control bylaw practices, how they will be applied for on-farm diversified use. Because it does speak to something that I wrote down that I appreciate, Monica, you saying. You said, focus on risk versus focusing on permissions. And I think that that's a very good comment, because from a customer service point of view, it's always been my objective to ask all of our staff to find a way. Find a way. That's what we want. And the CAO and I have worked on that quite a bit to make sure that we know that we can find a way to get our citizens to where they need to be. And so property owners, they're part of our community, and we want to make sure that property owners understand that this council and this administration will try to find a way. There are rules that are in place from the provincial and sometimes federal that we do not have control of, but we're going to do our best to try to find a way.
And I think it's possible, and I really do hope you look at the option of adding a different stream for on-farm diversified use, because what you have right now doesn't work.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
it's all in focusing, keeping agriculture right here, which is clearly in our strategic plan.
Yeah.
So that's the whole reason for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I look forward to more conversations with you.
I hope so.
Well, they're always pleasurable. Thank you,
Okay.
Monica.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. All right, members of council, I appreciate the deputation. And in delegation, we're going to move on now to item 6, public meeting. There are no public meetings. So item 7 is approval of the council meeting minutes. And the recommendation is, be it resolved, the council of the Township of Clearview hereby approve the minutes of the February 23rd, 2026 council meeting and the February 25th special council meeting, which was a planning public meeting, as presented. Moved by Mr. Walker, seconded by Mr. Beelan. Thank you. And are there any questions or any omissions in the minutes? Looking at you, Mr. Broderick. No? No. Okay. All those in favor? Well, I'm voting. I can vote on it, for sure I can. No, I can vote on these, of course. That's the other thing, just, procedurally, you can vote on them, it's on our agenda. You can. That's right. That's okay. There's nothing that says you can't vote on it. Madam Clerk, there's nothing that says I can't vote on it. That's correct. Thank you very much. Okay. That's all right. It's all right. Okay, where are we? Item 7, correspondence items. So item 8.1. So 8.1 is from our in-camera session. Council, I've got 3 little motions I need to read forward. First one, pretty straightforward. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby direct staff to act in accordance with the direction provided in closed session regarding a property heritage review. And I can have that moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Mr. Broderick. Any questions? Seeing none. All in favor? Thank you. That carries. Hall Board appointments. This is exciting. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby accept the resignation of Joanne Rashimfowski, I think that's how you say your name, from the Dunedin Village Hall Board, and that Council appoints Biran Musafi and Melissa Weatherall and Tim Weatherall to the Sunnydale Corners Community Center Board, and Dylan Patterson to the Dunedin Village Board. And that Council direct staff to amend appointment bylaw number 22-101 to add these appointments. Excellent. Mr. MacArthur, thank you. Mr. Beelan would be the seconder. Thank you. This is exciting. All those in favor? Thank you. Welcome volunteers. Appreciate that. And the last one is regards to Edward Street facility. Be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby direct staff to act in accordance with the direction provided in closed session regarding the facility lease agreement on 31 Edward Street East. And Mr. Walker, thank you. And Mr. Broderick, thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you. All right. Moving on in correspondence, item 8.2, the county releases the Simcoe Village campus redevelopment, gets approval for further expanded seniors care and housing options. Simcoe Village is an amazing facility, folks. I just got to tell you, it's great. Read this information, and if you get a chance to visit up there, it's a really cool place. The county has a release regarding March is It Starts month in Simcoe County. And just for your information, we did the flag raising today, and I'm sorry, I neglected to bring the proclamation with me. I was going to read it here, but it's published on our website, so you can have a look at it. It's a good proclamation in regards to It Starts. County advisory that Simcoe County launches the 2026 Age-Friendly Housing Grant Program. Excellent program, opportunity for our citizens. Ministry of Natural Resources has a black bear proposal and feedback request. So anybody who's concerned about black bear in the province, there's some information there. And then item 8.6 is the NVCA February 2026 board meeting highlights. I'll leave that up to the deputy mayor if he has something he wants to add to that. So at this point, we're going to go to ward reports. I'm going to start with Mr. Broderick.
Thank you, Your Worship. February 24th, attended the Simcoe County Board meeting. The 25th, attended the Clearview Planning Public Meeting. Actually, from March the 4th to the 8th, I was up north playing in the Northern Corridor. March the 9th, attended the It Starts flag raising. And tomorrow night will be the Clearview Chamber of Commerce Executive Meeting. March the 11th, the Clearview Chamber of Commerce is doing a tour of the office space of Wilcox Place. And March the 14th is Green Beer Day at the Duntroon Small Hall.
Excellent.
That's it, that's all.
Thank you. Glad to have you back. Mr. MacArthur.
Thank you, Your Worship. Same as Councilor Broderick said, we're at the planning meeting and flag raising this afternoon, and there will also be green beer of some sort at the Station on the Green this Saturday night with Shipyard boys, and same as the last 2 years. So if you want to party, it's the place to be. Thank you.
The 2 opportunities to be Irish in the same town. I don't know. That's going to be fun for someone, I'm sure of it. Deputy Mayor, do you want to go next?
I can. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
And I'll just say it, welcome back. We had a good time without you? Oh, I
Okay.
can't say that, no. Well, everything went well, most of the time.
Sure.
Anyways, it was good. Talked about the It Starts. We actually did the flag raising on the 24th of February at the county, which is the spearhead for this whole project. And it was nice. We got our picture taken, and Councillor Broderick hid in the back row, but we did get a picture. We saw him there eventually. NVCA was the 27th, which was a virtual meeting, and just a sidebar for tomorrow, the ministry apparently is going to be starting to make an announcement and about the future of some of the conservation authorities. So stand by to hear what they say. We don't know. We don't know anything. The 5th, we had our grant meeting, the preliminary grant meeting, so that will be coming forward to council for recommendation shortly. The 9th, today we did the flag raising for the It Starts, which is our own in Clearview. And tomorrow we will be back at County Council with some dealing with the usual stuff, and that should do it for myself.
All right, thank you so much. Glad to be back. Thank you for doing a good job. Mr. Beelan, Councillor Beelan.
Thank you, Your Worship. First thing I was doing was looking at the thing from the county about the bear populations. They don't even mention our area. I don't think they want bears in our area, but there are a few. I've got them on my trail cam, and I think you can report any bears to this. They show the area above Midland as having too many bears, and that's why I think we see the odd one as they migrate a little south and they get lost down here. There are the odd bear, and I know there's one shot in Angus a few years ago, so there are bears in our area. What else? February 24th, we had the OPP Detachment Board meeting, and we met the new commander, and I'll let the mayor talk about her. February 28th or 25th was the planning meeting. March 4th, the Climate Action Committee met, and today I was at the flag raising. And I just want to remind everyone, the Sports and Culture Hall of Fame nominations are in effect, and we need people to nominate people. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you had a busy time. Thanks for the bear update, giving us the bear facts. Mr. Walker, please go right ahead.
Thank you, Worship.
We're not hunting moose right now.
I'm glad it's not a moose. I'm glad it's not moose facts they're talking about there instead. Just an update, same as been mentioned, the 25th of planning. Today, the It Starts flag raising. Tomorrow is accessibility, and the 17th will be library. That's it, Your Worship.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to start my comments off tonight and by just acknowledging that our public works staff have had a very busy weekend. Our community underwent a significant rainfall, high temperatures, lots of melting, road damage, just so much work all over our township. Perhaps to give a moment to ask Dan Perot, our Director of Public Works, if maybe you can just give us a little bit of a highlight of some of the things that have happened, including some of the road closures that happened over the weekend. And while you're getting ready to say your comments, I just want to give a compliment out to our communications staff for reacting and putting some communications out during the weekend about road closures. So Dan, can you just help highlight for us some of the work that our staff have done this weekend?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I probably won't catch all of it because it's a gathering of information over the weekend, but yeah, we have a significant amount of phone calls into our after hours number. Kind of started all about Saturday evening. We had to close Riverside Drive for water over the road for a few hours. It was lifted sometime early morning on Sunday, but Sunday proved to be a really challenging day. A lot of water that melted fairly fast. If you can imagine, over this winter, we've had about 8 to 10 feet of snow over the entire winter, and it melted by 95% in about a day and a half. So culverts were very full, ditches were running very full. Some sections of roads, especially in the gravel sections, carved out some pretty significant crevices that we were required to close some of those roads. I think about 4 or 5 roads were closed today, but staff is out there and they're working away, trying to repair and rebuild some of the roads in the area. Potholes is another big challenge this year, as in most places in the springtime with the freeze thaw and rain that we've had. And so we've had a dedicated crew for the last week and a day going out and filling potholes over the entirety of the township.
Thank you very much, Dan. The men and women of our public works staff are tasked with some pretty daunting work, day and night, keeping an eye on this in the bad weather and the good weather. But the one little tidbit of information I found very interesting. I had a brief conversation with Joel Newman, who's our supervisor out there, and he shared with me that we are completely out of our barrel pylons. Like, they are all used, and we have hundreds and hundreds of them, and they're all being used right now because they're spread out all over the township because of road washouts or roadways that have caused issues. And so he said that might be the first time since we built the building that there are no barrels in the building. So he said it was a bit of a shocker to see that they're all out. That means that they're all being deployed somewhere in the township. So we've got a lot of issues going on out there. There's no doubt, and it's very much weather related. It's kind of to be predicted. It does happen at this time of year, but it did come a little quicker. You know, oftentimes these things happen sometimes in April, but you know, here we are at 1st of March and beautiful sunshine out there today. You have something else you want to add?
Yeah, just, you know, on top of that, Your Worship, that those barrels and, you know, the work continues. The work really never stops for public works folks, but, you know, if you take a look at 2025 and 2026 as we start 2026, but the amount of snow we received in the January, February of 2025, and then the ice storm, flooding events back that spring, and then we take you know, November, December of this year, the amount of snow we received into January, February. It's just been a challenging, tough weather-wise winter seasons for the township, and I hope to in the near future, perhaps in April, come back to council with just a small fun report. I'll say fun report, but just to identify, you know, how many man hours were dedicated to this winter's snow events, and I think council will be very shocked to see how many days and early mornings that our staff were out tackling the winter season. So.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's an ongoing challenge, that's for sure. I would say this though, Dan, we sure need that wheeled excavator like sooner than later. So let's call the delivery people and say, like, let's get on that. Like, we need that piece of equipment like sooner than later, right?
We certainly do, and we've been promised late April.
Yes, promises. Thank you. All right. Mr. MacArthur, do you have something you want to add to this?
Yeah, Dan spoke about it, though. I was just going to ask him whether he preferred a warm weekend with melt or an ice storm, so.
Yeah, it's either an ice storm or a warm weekend. Like, it just, you never know what you're going to get. So, you know, it's really a challenge. And, you know, for the citizens that are impacted by this, I know they are. They're impacted on their own personal properties. They're impacted in their basements and that kind of thing. And, you know, we've been hit with a sort of a triple threat of activity, including the half load thing that's on our roads as well. So it makes it a little more complicated for everything. But, you know, at this time of year, when the weather is warming up, that's exactly when our roads are susceptible to damage, because that's why we have the half load rule in place, right? To reduce the impact to our roads. So it's a very difficult time, that's for sure. And it's certainly weather related. But thank you, Mr. MacArthur, for bringing that forward.
We're also extremely fortunate that the rivers got away.
Yes.
Without much problems.
That was a few years ago, right? That river in Creemore let go up that little side street there. I remember that was a tough time for those residents too. All right. Well, Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking that back when Dad was on council, I remember being down the bottom of Creemore when Mel McKean was there with the special little red sticks and
Oh, yeah.
the roar of that water or that ice dam breaking loose. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah, Mother Nature, I tell you, you got to be careful. I do want to have another item I want to speak about. Thank you very much, Dan, for that. Thank you, Councillor MacArthur. Another quick item, I did meet with the Detachment Commander Inspector Alicia McCracken. She is our new detachment commander for Huronia West, which of course serves us here in Clearview Township. Very qualified, very, very intelligent young lady who's now taken over the command of our OPP detachment here. I look forward to working with her, and I know that she's very knowledgeable of our community. She actually served in this area as a constable way back in the day, and she actually lives not very far away. She's not in our township, but she's over in Tiny Township, I believe, or Tay Township. Tay, I think she lives in Tay. But nevertheless, she's nearby, and she knows our area, and we've got a terrific group of OPP officers that are serving us here in our area. So our board is doing a good job. So anyway, I just wanted to share with that I did meet with her, and she pledged that she would be going for a walkabout on our main streets. So I expect to stop at Jamie's when the weather's right and get an ice cream with her. How's that? Sound good? All right. Council, let's move on. We're going to move on to our reports next, which is our 10.1.1, which is an item that Marty has indicated is a conflict of interest. So, Councillor Beelan, I'll ask you just to step back from the dais for a moment. This report is report PB 007-2026. It's the zoning bylaw amendment application for Stevens at 5840 County Road 9. Before I read the recommendation, look for a mover and seconder. Anybody do you have a comment, Derek Abbots, from your department? Do you have anything you want to
Through your worship, no, I'm just here to ask or answer any questions, and just it's in support of a creation of a surplus dwelling lot at 5840 County Road 9, just the first step in the process. And they have submitted a concurrent consent application as well that pending the result of this will be processed by the planning department.
Oh, very good. All right. Members of council, do you have any questions to Derek? All right. Nothing? Thank you. I'll read the report. Look for a mover and seconder. It says here, recommendation be it resolved. Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PP 007-2026. It's a zoning bylaw amendment application, and it is dated March the 9th, 2026. Item 1, that the zoning bylaw generally consistent with the draft amendment found in Appendix F for the lands municipally known as 5840 County Road 9 be presented to council for consideration and approval at the March 23rd, 2026 meeting. Can I have that moved by the Deputy Mayor and seconded by Mr. MacArthur? Thank you very much. Seeing no further comments, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Beelan, you're welcome back to the table. Item 10.1.2 is the comprehensive zoning bylaw, release of the second draft bylaw, revised mapping, and public meeting proposed. Okay, Derek, there was a question asked in public participation, and you mentioned that this is one of the items that we're going to be talking about. So I'll turn it right over to you. Do you have anything you want to add to this comments from this report?
Through your worship, actually we have our consultant Dave Aston from MHBC Planning in attendance, and I actually will probably just turn it over to him and not steal too much of his thunder, but I'll be here to answer any follow-up questions if council has any.
Thank you very much. Mr. Aspen, nice to have you join us once again. Thank you for being patient and waiting online. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Good evening, Your Worship, and members of council. Thanks for the introduction, and just circling back on the public comment and the comments that you had made and that Derek had made with regard to including all the comments. We absolutely will be ensuring in a final report that all public comments are included as part of the document and that they have been considered and addressed. So I just wanted to also comment on that. We're really here tonight. You'll recall last time I was here, there was a lot of discussion on the status of the mapping for the natural heritage system and the EP zone or the hazard zone. We had been targeting release of some information on the mapping and to be holding a public meeting sometime this month. And what we have found is through comments that were received from the county and conservation authority that we need to circle back and meet with them to discuss the approach that we were taking to address the natural heritage system mapping in EP zone and ensure that our approach is in conformity with the county official plan primarily, as they had provided some comments raising some concern with the approach. We have a meeting planned with them March 26th. We said, well, if that's the case, we need to meet as soon as possible so that we can keep the process moving forward on the official plan update and the zoning bylaw review. So between now and the meeting with the county and conservation authority, we'll be providing information to them as it relates to the proposed approach of the township to address the comments. And we'll also be carrying on with the other components of the zoning bylaw to ensure that it stays on track for completion as we've outlined, looking to get something back before the summer to this council. So really kind of sharing some disappointing news on our end. We were hoping to be out with a public meeting and sharing the information, but we felt it most important to make sure that there was this discussion with the county and conservation authority before we release mapping to the public that may be subject to change again. We want to make sure we're presenting the most current and final mapping to the public when we do go out to the public. So that's where we're at this evening, and happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Dave. It's glad to have this update. Members of council, do you have any questions to Dave or Derek, who are available to answer any questions? Mr. Deputy Mayor, please.
Just, Dave, thank you. I understand what you're going through to get this put through. We, as everybody's aware, it's an election year. I just hope we can get a lot of this stuff done earlier rather than later, so it falls on this council to work with. So please keep that in mind, what we can do to facilitate it getting through earlier. Thank you.
Through your worship to the Deputy Mayor, that is absolutely our goal. So we appreciate that comment. And I know I can't see Derek, but he'll probably nod that we really are working to try and wrap this up and keep this moving forward, because we think that the bylaw will be really helpful and useful to your team, and we'll be able to respond to some of the questions and comments like we heard earlier tonight. It will really help to facilitate those investments in your community that you're looking for.
Excellent, thank you very much. And to the comments that came from our deputation or our public participation, Mr. Thomas, and it's very important that these comments become part of the public record. This is a part of the transparency of the process, and so I'm glad that he pointed out that it's just not available, but we want to make sure that everyone knows they will be out there, and they are being considered by our staff to provide the answers that are in some of those questions. So thank you for that, and I know it's a lot of work. Members of council, do you have anything further you'd like to add? Nothing from our councilors? All right. All right. Dave, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work, and keep us informed as council as this progresses along. And to Derek, so you've certainly heard some of the conversation here tonight in regards to on-farm diversified use. That's a big priority. And I know you've definitely heard from the public in regards to the EP lands, on how the fact that people planted trees in their backyard and suddenly that's being considered EP. That's kind of unfair. We want to make sure that we treat everybody fairly and equally across the township. So we want to do this right and do it correctly. So I know you understand that, a lot of those concerns were brought forward. So let's get that straightened up, and we'll get a really good report from both of you and for the township to have. Okay, at this time, then I'll read the report. Recommendation is be it resolved, the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PB 008-2026. It's in regards to the zoning bylaw, release of the second draft bylaw, revised mapping, and public meeting of a proposed date, and it's dated March the 9th, 2026, for information. Mr. Walker, thank you. Mr. Broderick, thank you. No further questions from council? Then I'll call the motion. All in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, we're going to move on in our agenda here to item 10.2, administration. We do have the, it's report, get this, report is 004-2026, but the report is in regards to the 2025 annual corporate report. Okay, so Mr. CAO, would you like to speak to this corporate report? I read it with interest and found that it was very knowledgeable, or very informative, good information about the things we've been doing in our town. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Your Worship. I do want to say thank you to all the departments that got their information together to assist Drew in putting this together. Drew Hale put the document together, and I think she did a great job. I would, maybe I'll just read some of the stuff that's gone on in 2025 that it'll, I'm sure, bring back memories for everybody. 2025 was a year of action driven by our strategic plan. Construction began on the deep well and water pipeline project from Klondike Park to the Stainer community, an essential infrastructure investment that will support new homes over the next decade. Council staff and volunteer committees have all advanced our strategic plan pillars. We celebrated the completion of the Evening Hall, progress on the Boulevard Gardens encroachments, application process, the purchase of the former Stainer Care Center, and the Climate Action Committee initiatives in which students from Seneca Polytech are contributing research and data collection to guide future recommendations on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Our Community Economic Development Officer actively supported entrepreneurs, business owners, and economic initiatives. We continue to collaborate closely with our volunteer groups and associations and local businesses as we strengthen Clearview's economy. A new commercial district has taken shape with the opening of Foodland, the LCBO, Dollarama, and McDonald's, alongside the newly constructed Jarlette Stainer Care Center. We have also seen activity from the Department of National Defense and NORAD, who have acquired property to establish an initial site for the over-the-horizon radar system, technology designed to detect missiles, threats, and monitor vessel movement in the Northern Passage. We remain committed to protecting farmland and maintain high-quality municipal services and advancing climate action that is both local and affordable. Finally, the March ice storm tested our resilience, particularly for residents in higher elevations. We've had some great support by our staff in that particular area. The response demonstrated our community strength, and we extend our appreciation to Simcoe County for their support. Our volunteer sector continue to support the food bank with assistance from the businesses in the township. Clearview's community spirit was especially evident at the Christmas parades, where neighbors gathered in impressive numbers to celebrate the season. Together, we continue to move the community forward. So basically, that's a high level. There's been a lot of other stuff that's gone on, but at a high level, that's really what we captured for 2025.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Members of council, do you have any questions to the CAO or any of the senior staff? Because there's a lot of good information in this report. They're all quiet. Nothing to add? All right. Good stuff. Okay. Well, it is a good report. I'm also glad that we do this every year, and I'm glad we do it about this time of year to get it out sooner than later. And it does take a bit of time to get all the data in together. I think that the one thing too that we want to point out too that our treasury's done an excellent job this year. As you know, the budget came in at a very reasonable rate, and I think that our treasury, has done their best to make sure that we find all of those savings that we possibly can. So that's a piece that I don't think you mentioned directly in there, John, but it's certainly something that we should always state, that we do the best job we can there when it comes to that. So thanks very much for this report. It's available online, and I believe you could get some hard copies printed up if necessary. I'm not sure if you're planning on doing that, putting them at the library or anything like that, but we certainly have them available if anybody needs them. Council, at this time, if there's no further questions, the recommendation is be it resolved the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report CAO 004-2026 It is the 2025 Annual Corporate Report dated March the 9th, 2026 for information. Deputy Mayor, thank you. Mr. MacArthur, thank you. And any further? All those in favor? Thank you very much. That carries unanimous. Okay. We have one other item on here, the Economic Development Strategy. Mr. CAO, perhaps you could speak to this and then introduce our Economic Development Officer, if she has anything she wants to add to answer any questions for this report. Mr. CAO, do you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to hand it over to Briar. She looked after this, and she's championing this study coordination. So,
Right on. Welcome, Briar. Nice to see you. Thank you for a great report. Is there anything you want to add before I go to questions?
Through your worship, nothing further to add. This report just does outline the current steps we've taken to get to the consultant selection for the economic development strategy, and we're looking forward to kicking off next steps to begin public engagement.
All right. Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions to any of our staff on this issue? Paul, go right ahead, Mr.
Briar, thank you. It was nice to see the quotes come in pretty close. Was there only two companies that responded to an ask, or is there not that many people out there who do this kind of work?
We did go through invitational quote to 3 firms in the region as part of the application that we submitted to the Rural Ontario Development Program. We did have to include the hard quotes that we received through that application with a minimum of 2. Per our own procurement bylaw, we did require 3. Of those 3 that I've reached out to, 2 responded with firm quotes.
Thank you.
Very good. Other members of council with any questions? Yes, Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, Your Worship. Did you write this report before or during your birthday yesterday?
Through your worship, that's exactly how I want to spend my birthday.
Briar was celebrating her 21st birthday. I mean, come on. Good for her. Okay, council, if there's nothing further, thank you very much. Thank you, Briar. Briar Kelly, our Community Economic Development Officer. We appreciate the work that her and that department are doing for us. Council, the resolution says, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive the report CAO 005-2026, the Economic Development Strategy Consultant Selection, dated March the 9th, 2026, for information. Mr. Walker, Mr. Beelan, thank you very much. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Council, at this time, there are no bylaws. I thought we would have had at least one on here, but, oh, look, we do. We have the confirmatory bylaw. It's a funny thing we have all the time. Anyway, if there's no new business, anybody have any items? There is. Yes, sir. Mr. Walker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have 3.
Uh-oh, 3 new business items. Is your mic on?
It is now.
Thank you.
The first update is what is happening with the speed reduction on Highway 26 from east of Centerline Road, west to the Stainers easterly boundary. Reduction was from 80 to 60. What is happening with that, and when might this take effect if it has been approved?
We have been pursuing that for some time. There's been a sort of a two-front effort, both through the staff, contacting staff, and through my office at the mayor's office, contacting the minister. I have not had any communications back from the minister in some time. Perhaps I can ask Dan from the staff point of view, have you heard anything from the MTO on that question?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and through to Councillor. I have, earlier in February, I received a note from the MTO Corridor Management Division that they have assessed the area and are in agreement to lower the speed in that zone. They haven't given me, as of yet, a definitive answer of the limits of that speed reduction and what that reduction will be. That was earlier February, and I just, I have made myself notes to bother them once a month And today was that once of the month. So I sent a follow-up email just this morning to ask them if they have any further information on that item. And I don't have any further information, but it's been acknowledged, and waiting to hear from MTO on that.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Number 2.
Why don't you go on while the clerk and I deal with a critter that's crawling across.
Postponing of the traffic lights at Grand Trunk and Highway 26 by the developer, and after a meeting of developer, township staff, and MTO, advancing the lights to spring of 2026. Has the developer moved forward to complete his permits and approval from MTO and equipment purchased to proceed whenever MTO lift their contract maintenance restrictions?
I can answer part of that question. Perhaps I can ask the CAO if he wants to join me in that. The CAO and I had a face-to-face meeting with the 2 proponents from the development community that are responsible for that. They committed to us that they are moving ahead with the project. They are waiting for their, like you said, their permits to actually commence with the work. There is some significant work that needs to be done. There's a little bit of concrete work that needs to be done, little curb changing and so on. But they expect it to happen soon. John, would that be about the answer, right? I would think. Thank you. Yeah, later this spring, but they did not think it would be past June. I think it would be later this spring. Perhaps Dan has more on that.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I left my mic on. As the other subject on the speed reduction, I too also note that I give myself reminders to bother the proponents of this. And back in middle of February, I received a note from the developer's engineer that they had in fact received their encroachment permit from the MTO. However, they were still waiting on their building and land use permit. So the encroachment is essentially that they can do the work within the road allowance. The building and land use permit is to actually do the work, which is an MTO thing. I know for a fact that MTO, depending on the weather, MTO won't issue that, typically won't issue that building and land use permit until after their winter construction season hiatus is done, and that's typically middle of May. The developer's consultant has also notified me that the materials needed, the electrical components, the light standards, et cetera, heads are readily available, and they have them set aside for this project. So things seem like they're falling in place, and as the CAO and the mayor have indicated, that I think there's a commitment to begin that work as soon as possible.
You have a third question?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, good.
Thank you, Your Worship. Having been told by our MPP that Service Ontario was seeking a new location in Stayner and not leaving, but since that time, nothing has happened. Has MPP or Service Ontario responded? And if not, where do we go from here?
Mr. CAO.
I do know that they've received our correspondence, but we haven't heard any response as of yet. I did speak to Brian Saunderson maybe a couple of weeks ago now, and he said he hadn't heard anything, but was going to circle back. So we haven't heard. Okay.
Thank you. Keep those things on your list, much like Mr. Perot keeps them on his list. Good. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's good. Okay. Okay. Is there anything further? Nothing. Thank you. Council, confirmatory bylaw, be it resolved that bylaw number 26-17, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 9th, 2026 council meeting, be presented and read a first, second, third time, finally passed 9th day of March 2026. Can I have that moved by Mr. Walker, seconded by Mr. Broderick? Thank you. Any questions on the bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. That carries. At this time, I will call for the motion to adjourn, and it is 6:44, we'll call it. All right, 6:44 p.m., motion to adjourn. Mr. MacArthur, thank you. Mr. Beelan, thank you. All those in favor? All right, that carries. This meeting is now complete, and I want to wish everybody a very good day And let's